walking and now rush in. Look at this.
He can barely contain his excitement.
It began with a man who looked almost giddy, unable to contain his excitement as he brandished a 23-inch samurai sword, one he had simply ordered online. His name was Marcus Monzo, and within hours, that blade would cut a path of devastation through the streets of northeast London.
With this 23-inch sword he ordered online, Marcus Monzo went on to murder a schoolboy and try to kill 4 others. But the cat in this video was his first victim. Early morning in April last year, he was driving this van. Donato Irule was on his way to work. He's shown by this pink arrow. Monzo then drove into him before getting out and hitting him in the neck with the sword. Mr. Irule is filmed screaming as he runs away. He survived.
Without warning, Monzo swerved and drove straight into him. Donato barely had time to react before Monzo stepped out, striking him in the neck with the sword. Somehow, Donato survived. But 14-year-old Daniel Angerin would not. Daniel had left his home only moments earlier, wearing his school uniform, heading out for an ordinary day. He never saw the attack coming. Monzo struck with fatal precision. Wounds to Daniel's neck and head so severe, the jury later heard, they were unsurvivable. Neighbors rushed to call for help, but when the ambulance arrived, it wasn't Daniel who greeted them, it was Monzo, still armed, still dangerous.
He just killed that boy. He just killed him.
As Daniel's body lay in the street, neighbors rang for help, but it was Monzo who greeted the ambulance. And when the first police officers arrived, armed with a type of pepper spray,
drop the sword!
They quickly realised they needed backup.
Line close, more units, more units!
Monzo ignored repeated calls to stop. Instead, he replied with rambling questions about whether God is here.
Drop it!
Are there gods here?
Drop!
Are there gods or gods?
Drop it!
2 officers were badly injured as Monzo lashed out, slashing one across the head, shoulder, and arm.
The first was slashed to the head, shoulder, and arm.
Police officer stopped! Police officer stopped!
But the violence didn't stop in the street. Monzo slipped through the unlocked back door of a nearby home. Inside, a couple woke to find him standing over them in their bedroom. He struck the man on the arm, and prosecutors would later say the only reason they weren't killed was because their 4-year-old daughter began to cry, prompting Monzo to leave.
Back outside, an inspector took Monzo on with his baton, but was struck on the hand and bleeding.
Get a tourniquet for the governor, quick!
Again, Monzo made a run for it, but eventually he was cornered, tasered, and arrested. The weapon finally out of his hands.
In court, Monzo claimed he remembered nothing. He admitted to using hallucinogenic tea and cannabis in the past, and the jury heard he had been in a cannabis-induced psychosis. But intoxication was no defense for what happened that day. Today, he has been found guilty of Daniel's murder, along with 3 counts of attempted murder. In just 20 minutes of violence, Marcus Monzo ended one life, shattered others, and left an entire community with scars that will never fade. 14-year-old Daniel Angerin should have made it to school that day. Instead, his name will be remembered as the innocent boy whose life was stolen on one of London's darkest mornings. From a morning in London defined by senseless violence and the loss of an innocent life, we turn to the open waters off the Welsh coast, where another life hangs in the balance. But this time, the story isn't about destruction. It's about survival. Out here, survival depends on more than skill. It takes quick thinking, courage, and sometimes just sheer luck. There's something magical about the mountains in winter. The silence, the vastness, the way sunlight bounces off powder like glitter suspended in air. Skiing takes you into that silence, lets you move through it, glide over it. For a moment, you're weightless, free, above the noise of the world. It's no wonder people fall in love with it. That first rush down the slope, the cold air against your skin, the adrenaline, the speed, it hooks you. Carving perfect lines into untouched snow, the rhythm of turns, the pure simplicity of movement in a world otherwise so complicated. But this beauty comes with risk, because the same mountain that offers peace can shift without warning. Beneath all that powder is something unpredictable: ice, hidden drops, unstable snowpack. One wrong turn, one split-second misjudgment, and everything changes.
Oh, God. I think he's unconscious. Is he out? You out, Chris? Did he stop him?
Every winter, thousands of skiers are injured worldwide. Broken bones, torn ligaments, head trauma. And for some, the mountains become their final resting place. Miraculously, this young man did not lose his life after this high fall. A body going 60 kilometers an hour downhill can turn a mistake into a tragedy. Trees become deadly, rocks unforgiving. Falls that start small can end hard. But falling while skiing is not the only dangerous thing about being so high up in the snowy mountains.
Блять, пидорасы, блять, что вы делаете? Я хуй... Юля, отгоди! Блять, сука! Блять, ебануться!
In this case, the brakes had completely failed, leaving the lift spinning freely as gravity dragged the chairs back toward the base. What followed was a chaotic and terrifying scene. But thanks to the quick action of bystanders, the disaster was contained, and no one suffered critical injuries. But sometimes, the real danger isn't racing downhill or being caught in a malfunctioning lift. It's what lies hidden beneath your feet. The pristine surface can be a perfect disguise for what waits below. Deep, narrow crevasses carved into the glacier over decades, their openings masked by fragile snow bridges. Step in the wrong spot, and the ground simply disappears. And that's exactly what happened here.
Faut faire gaffe, il y a l'arrimée ici. Oh, chaud devant l'arrimée. Merde. Non. Non.
One moment, he was gliding across open snow. The next, the surface gave way, and he plunged into darkness. The walls of the crevasse closed in around him, ice glistening like glass, the cold biting straight through his layers.
Ah. Aide-moi! Je crois que je me suis niqué le genou, vite! Ça va tomber! Oh putain! Putain, merde! Viens me tirer! Ah, je me suis niqué le genou, je crois. Faut pas que tu te mettes en dessous de moi, sinon il y a tout qui me tombe sur la gueule. Préviens les autres! Faut pas que t'ailles au-dessus de moi là. Je peux pas aller dedans. Putain, j'ai zéro corde, fake.
Far above, his friends scrambled to act, knowing that every second counted. A fall like this can be fatal, not just from the impact, but from hypothermia setting in fast.
Tiens, bon. Putain. Ah, j'arrive pas à pousser sur ma jambe.
Vas-y, je lâche.
Lâche.
Allez, vas-y, serre-toi de ça.
Ah.
Place-le dans l'autre sens. Plutôt comme on a fait à la
Je bouge pas, putain, je vais tomber. Ah, j'arrive pas. Sans ça.
Je sais que j'ai pas de corde là. Essaye d'enlever un ski sur les deux déjà.
Non, 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 sinon je vais tomber, je pense. Je vais m'enfoncer dans l'arrivée.
On peut faire. En plus, ils vont arriver, ils vont nous mettre du sluff.
Mais te préviens, les gros, faut que tu les préviennes. Mets les skis. Bon. Comment je vais faire? Je vais essayer de faire quelque chose. Putain, j'ai peur que le gros bloc il me tombe sur la gueule là. Prends ça. Tu l'as? Putain, je crois que je me suis niqué le ligament. Hein.
Ah putain, merde.
J'ai le genou qui tient pas là. Ah! Je peux pas, gros, j'ai le ski bloqué. Putain, je suis. Il va falloir que tu me tires là, prends le piolet.
Je peux pas te tirer, gros. J'aurais pas assez d'air de force. Hein.
Faut que vous me sortiez.
Ah, on va sortir.
Putain, j'ai le genou qui est sorti, sa mère. Attends, je vais essayer d'enlever l'autre ski, mais ça me fait peur. J'essaie d'enlever l'autre ski, tiens. Ah!
Ok, super. Nickel. Ok.
Every minute must have felt like an hour. The walls of the crevasse pressed in, silent except for the sound of his friend and own breathing echoing back at him. Each passing moment brought the creeping fear that he would fall in even deeper, but they didn't give up.
Allez, allez.
Oh!
Allez, gros. Allez, c'est bien.
Ah, j'ai mal.
Allez, super. C'est presque.
Attends. Ah, je me suis bien fait le genou, je pense.
Putain, merde. Bon, au moins, t'es pas enfoui sous la neige.
Tu me tiens bien?
Ouais.
Va pas par là.
Ouais.
Ok.
Oh putain.
Il y a un trou là aussi.
Je vais mettre mes skis.
Oh là.
Oh là là, oh là là. Vite mon ski.
Against the odds, they managed to pull him back up to the surface, but the danger wasn't over. The man was hurt, and so, unable to make it down on his own. Luckily, they were able to alert emergency services, and after an anxious wait in the freezing air, help finally arrived. The distant thump of rotor blades grew louder until a rescue helicopter came into view, hovering above the crevasse before lowering a winch to lift the injured man to safety.
Le genou et ça me l'a tordu.
Tu vas aller le clipper là-bas.
Tiens, clip-toi.
C'est bon? C'est abonné, c'est ça?
the mountains, survival often comes down to moments. Moments where the right person is close enough, quick enough, and skilled enough to act. This time, he was lucky. Many others never make it back to the surface. Still, people return, again and again. Because skiing isn't just a sport, it's a feeling, a connection to something older, wilder, a reminder that the world is still big and we are still small. The mountains demand respect, but so does every environment where risk hides in plain sight. Far from the slopes, in the heart of a small, bustling kitchen, an ordinary day's work can turn into a fight for survival in the space of a single breath. On July 16, 2025, a shocking incident unfolded inside a small restaurant in Vila Industrial, Mogi das Cruzes, Greater São Paulo, Brazil, when a pressure cooker exploded in the kitchen, an event caught on the restaurant's surveillance cameras. In the footage, a cook is seen working near the stove with the pressure cooker. As she adjusts the valve and leans in to regulate the flame, the device suddenly explodes, sending a deafening blast through the room as screams erupt in the background. A second camera angle captures the chaos from the opposite side of the wall. The woman bursts out of the kitchen, clearly in distress, while other employees react in panic, some rushing toward her, others calling for emergency services. Two male staff members quickly move in to help the injured cook amid the confusion. Initial reports from the fire department stated that her brother assisted her, but the victim later clarified it was another employee who helped carry her to a nearby hospital. There, she received treatment for burns to her face and hands and was discharged later that same day. Though she assured reporters she was recovering well, the violent blast left her visibly shaken, a stark reminder of the hidden dangers that can lurk in even the most ordinary kitchen routines. One moment, life feels ordinary, safe, even comforting. And then, without warning, the world tilts, reminding us how quickly normal can shatter and how chaos can erupt in the very places we feel most at ease.
In Germany, at least 2 people are dead and dozens injured after a suspect plowed a vehicle through a crowd.
It was supposed to be a night of joy. A cold December evening in the heart of Magdeburg, where the glow of Christmas lights lit up the square and the smell of roasted nuts and mulled wine lingered in the air. Families strolled between stalls, children clutched steaming hot chocolate, and laughter echoed beneath the town hall's towering spires. But within seconds, everything changed. Out of the stillness came chaos.
A vehicle has crashed into a crowd at a Christmas market in Magdeburg, Germany, leaving several people reportedly dead and dozens injured.
A black BMW SUV entered the pedestrian zone, quiet at first, unnoticed, until it accelerated. Witnesses say it moved too fast for anyone to react. The sound of music was replaced by something far more violent. Screams, shattering glass. A thunder of impact as bodies were struck and thrown across cobblestone. Dozens were hit. Some never got back up. The vehicle cut through the crowd like a weapon, surging nearly 400 meters through the packed market. What remained was devastation. Blankets were thrown over the injured. Bystanders rushed to help, and the square, once a symbol of peace, had become a war zone.
Ambulances and emergency services scramble to help those they can, taking people to hospital and treating at the scene. Hospitals in the area told to deal with a mass casualty event.
Sadly, 2 people were declared dead almost immediately, including a young child, but that number would rise. Hospitals overflowed. Over 60 people were injured in the initial count. Later, that number grew to nearly 300, with some victims critically wounded and many more scarred in ways no scan could ever show. The man behind the wheel was a 50-year-old psychiatrist, Taleb al-Abdel Mohsen, a Saudi national who had been living in Germany since 2006. To the world, he was a doctor, educated, professional. But what lived beneath the surface was something much darker. He had become radicalized, his online footprint filled with hate. The attack was no accident. It wasn't confusion or illness or a wrong turn in a crowded city. This was deliberate, calculated. A man with a plan to turn celebration into tragedy. And when they arrested him, when he was pulled from the wreckage, he showed no sign of regret, only silence. In the days that followed, Germany mourned. Candles lit the streets. Families wept. Survivors tried to make sense of what had happened. How a joyful night in December could so easily become a nightmare. Criticism grew too. Questions about security. Why were concrete barriers placed but an emergency access route left open? Why wasn't a chain across that lane installed as planned? Could all of this have been prevented? Later, the pain deepened. Some survivors, still recovering from their injuries, began receiving letters from him, the man who shattered their lives, now reaching out from a detention cell. Unsolicited messages that reopened wounds not yet healed. And again, people asked, how could this happen? But no answer ever brings peace. In Magdeburg, the scars remain, not just in the bodies of the injured, but in the hearts of the families who lost loved ones, in the silence that falls over the square at night, in the spaces where once there was music and joy, and now only memory. Tragedy takes many shapes. Sometimes it strikes in the heart of a city, delivered by human hands with cruel intent. Other times, it comes in the form of silent, indifferent nature, testing not just our strength, but our will to keep going when every instinct tells us to give up.
It was supposed to be a Thanksgiving celebration. James Michael and 18 of his family members boarding the Carnival Valor last Wednesday in New Orleans.
It was the night before Thanksgiving, 2022, and 28-year-old James Michael Grimes was on what was supposed to be a carefree family cruise aboard the Carnival Valor. The ship was lit up against the Black Gulf of Mexico, its decks alive with music, laughter, and the hum of engines pushing toward the next port. That evening, James had been celebrating with his sister, still riding the high of winning an air guitar contest earlier in the night. But somewhere between that moment of joy and the next, everything changed. He remembers going to the bathroom, and then nothing.
Do you remember leaving and going to find the bathroom?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember falling off the boat?
No.
So you don't know how it happened?
No, ma'am. I came to regain consciousness. I was in the water with no boat in sight.
So you, for a while, were passed out in the water?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
The lights, the noise, the warmth of safety vanished. All around him was an open ocean. No land, no rescue boat. Just the dark expanse of the Gulf and the cold reality that he had fallen overboard. In an instant, the fight of his life had begun.
James Michael was alone in an area known to be a feeding ground for sharks.
I thought it was a shark. I mean, I was swimming in one direction, and I looked around, and I seen it at the corner of my eye. And it came up on me really quick. And I went under, and I could see it. And it wasn't a shark, I don't believe. but it had more like a flat mouth, and it came up and bumped one of my legs, and I kicked it with the other leg. It scared me, not knowing what it was.
The avid outdoorsman tried to stay positive and calm. Exhausted and hungry, he ate what he could find to maintain his energy.
A stick come floating by, looked like bamboo, so I started eating on it, and it actually, I mean, I'm not gonna say it tasted good, but it gave some type of flavor in my mouth other than salt water.
Was there any point while you were out there where you thought, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this?
When it started getting back towards nighttime again, the water started getting colder. At that time, I thought, you know, how much longer am I going to have to be out here?
Yeah, but you just kept swimming?
Yes, ma'am. You know, the fall didn't kill me. You know, sea creatures didn't eat me. I felt like I was meant to get out of there.
There was no flotation device, no light, no sense of direction, only the sound of waves and his own breathing. Hours passed, then more hours. Time blurred into a relentless battle to stay alive. James said the only thing keeping him going was his determination to see his family again, especially his 9-year-old daughter. Every time exhaustion threatened to pull him under, he thought of her face. He prayed. He sang songs in his head to stay alert. He kept telling himself, "I'm not dying out here."
As the sun was going down Thanksgiving night, James Michael says he spotted a glimmer of hope, the lights from a tanker ship, and decided to swim towards it.
That was my final little burst of energy. The strength that I had, I used pretty much every bit of it to try to make it to one of them.
The Coast Guard then arriving, his miraculous rescue captured on camera.
When the Coast Guard got there,
yeah,
what happened?
They circled the boat 2 or 3 times looking for me, and you know, I'd done taken off my socks and everything and was just waving them around my head, trying to do something where they would see me. And when that light finally hit me, somehow I heard, "We got him." And I seen a guy coming down from that helicopter, and it was coming towards me. You know, right then I thought, man, I see the light.
When the Coast Guard guy showed up in the water, what'd you say to him?
Well, the first thing I actually told him was, "I don't have any clothes on." Because I didn't. I'd been stripped out of everything. He said, "That's fine." All right, and I was just like, okay. And he told me to hold on to this life vessel, and I was just thinking, thank you. You know, you're like a guardian angel coming down for me.
Finally, nearly 20 hours after he first hit the water, help was there. James was hauled into the basket, lifted from the sea that had almost claimed him. From there, it was a quick but critical flight to the nearest hospital.
His rescuers believe he was seconds away from not making it.
I swam to it as fast as I could. As I got to him, I shoved the rescue sling under his arms and he collapsed into it. He had nothing left.
Doctors would later confirm the full toll: 2 punctured lungs, extreme dehydration, and severe exhaustion. And yet, against all odds, he had survived. When asked what kept him alive, his answer was simple: "I wasn't ready to go." James Michael Grimes came terrifyingly close to becoming just another name on a list of lives lost at sea. Instead, he left with a second chance, and a story that still defies belief. A reminder that the ocean is as merciless as it is beautiful, and that sometimes survival comes down to nothing more than refusing to give up. Now that was all for today, folks. If you enjoyed these horrifying clips, click to see more on the video on screen.